Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We often think of medieval princesses in terms of fairy tales as beautiful young ladies living in luxurious comfort, wearing fancy gowns and tall pointy hats, waiting for some knight to rescue them. But the reality was far less romantic and far more dangerous. Between 1200 and 1400, roughly one-third of royal women died before age 30, facing arranged marriages, dangerous pregnancies, and political manipulation at every turn. Life for these women wasn't about fairy tales and romance. It was about survival. Here's what life was really like as a medieval princess. Hey, quick thing before we start. If you actually listen to these regularly, hit like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's at. So, comment your city and what time it is. Weird to think some of you are having breakfast in London while I'm recording this at night here in the States. Okay, let's head back to medieval Europe. Trust me, it's going to be quite a ride. But first, get comfortable. Seriously, adjust those pillows. Pull up that blanket because where we're going, you're going to want to be cozy. Alright, so you're waking up in a stone chamber in a castle in the 13th century England. First thing that hits you is the cold. Not the cute, nippy kind that makes you snuggle deeper into your comforter. This is the kind of cold that stabs right through you, makes your bones ache. The kind that has you seeing your breath in the air before you even open your eyes. Unlike your nice memory foam mattress with its Egyptian cotton sheets, you're lying on a straw-filled mattress. Yeah, actual straw. And it's not alone in there. The rustling you hear, that's the mice. They live in your bed now. Oh, and those little bites you feel, fleas and bed bugs, your constant companions that no amount of status can protect you from. The room is nearly pitch black because, surprise, there's no electricity, no light switches to flip, no bedside lamps, just thick darkness, occasionally pierced by a sliver of dawn light from the narrow window slits that let in more cold air than actual sunlight. And the smell. Oh God, the smell. Medieval castles didn't exactly have great ventilation. That musty, damp odor is the stone walls perpetually wet in England's climate. The sharp tang underneath, that's the chamber pot in the corner because you don't have a bathroom. Not even close. And despite what movies show you, medieval people didn't bathe it often, especially not in winter. So there's also the unique funk of unwashed human that permeates everything. Morning, my lady. The voice startles you. Right. You're not alone. Your ladies-in-waiting sleep in the same room as you. Actually, one of them sleeps at the foot of your bed. She's been there all night listening to you snore, watching you drool. Privacy. Not a thing for medieval princesses. The woman who spoke, Alice is her name, is already up and moving around. She's stoking the fire that went out during the night, trying to bring some warmth back into the room. She's been awake for at least an hour already, because that's what servants do. They wake before you, sleep after you, and basically exist to make your life function. It's time for morning prayers, my lady, Alice says, helping you sit up. The household is gathering. This isn't optional. No matter how tired you are, no matter if you're sick, no matter what. Morning prayers happen every single day, and as the princess, you need to be there. God comes first, always. That's non-negotiable in medieval life. Alice helps you out of bed. The stone floor is like ice under your bare feet. In fact, the whole ritual of getting dressed is nothing like slipping into some comfy sweats and a t-shirt. Medieval royal clothing was designed to display wealth and status, not for comfort. First comes the linen shift, the only piece of clothing that gets washed with any regularity. Then the kirt, a long-sleeved dress that laces up the sides or back. Next, a sur, an overdress with sometimes ridiculous sleeves that make it impossible to do anything practical without help. Your feet get stuffed into leather slippers that offer zero support and even less warmth. Arms up, Alice instructs as she and another lady wrestle you into your clothing. This isn't your everyday outfit either. This is just for morning prayers. You'll change again after you eat, maybe again before midday meal, and definitely before supper if there are guests. Your hair gets a quick brushing, not a thorough one because that takes too long, and prayers wait for no one. Alice quickly braids it and tucks it up under a linen veil. No, not the tall, pointy hat from fairy tales. Those came later and were worn only in specific regions and times. You're wearing something more like a nun's wimple, a cloth that covers your hair, neck, and frames your face. because a woman's hair is considered too tempting, too sensual to be seen. It must be covered in public. Hurry now, Alice urges, fastening a cloak around your shoulders. Your father will be displeased if we're late, and that's something you absolutely want to avoid, because your father isn't just your dad. He's the king, or a powerful duke, or earl. Either way, he controls literally everything about your life. Where you go, what you eat, what you wear, who you talk to, and most importantly, who you'll marry. Displeasing him isn't just about getting grounded. It could mean being sent away to a convent, or worse, married off to someone truly awful as punishment. So you hurry, following Alice through the winding stone corridors of the castle. They're barely warmer than your room and just as dark. Servants are scurrying about with lit torches and rushlights, trying to bring some illumination to the gloom. The smell gets worse as you pass near the kitchens, a mix of smoke, unwashed bodies, and food that would turn your modern stomach. You reach the castle's chapel just as the bells are ringing. Everyone is already assembled, your father at the front, of course, with your mother beside him, if she's still alive. Childbirth kills a lot of medieval women. Your brothers, if you have any, are near your father. You and any sisters you have stand behind the men because that's your place, always behind the men. The chapel is cold too, but at least there are candles, dozens of them, casting a warm glow that almost makes the place feel cozy. Almost. You can still see your breath in the air. The priest begins the prayers in Latin. You understand some of it. You've heard these same prayers every day of your life, after all, but full comprehension isn't expected of you. You're a woman. Your job is to look pious, follow along with the responses, and set a good example for the household. Our Father, who art in heaven, the familiar words roll out in the priest's monotone. These prayers will go on for at least an hour, standing on the cold stone floor in your thin slippers. Your stomach is growling because you haven't eaten yet, but that doesn't matter. God first, always. I know what you're thinking. This sucks, right? Where's the glamour? Where are the handsome knights and the fancy tournaments? Well, that stuff exists, but it's not the day-to-day reality. The day-to-day is cold, boring, uncomfortable, and rigidly structured. Morning prayers finally end, and you're allowed to go to the hall for breakfast. But don't get excited. Medieval breakfast isn't pancakes and bacon. It's probably bread, dense, coarse bread. Nothing like our fluffy modern loaves with maybe some ale. Yes, even in the morning. Or watered wine if you're lucky. Maybe some cheese if it's available. Maybe an egg if the chickens are laying well. That's it. And you don't eat alone. The hall is full of people. Soldiers, servants, clerks, visitors, everyone eats together with your family at the high table at the front of the room, elevated above everyone else. Privacy still not a thing, my lady. Your father wishes to speak with you after the meal, Alice whispers as she refills your cup with watered wine. Your stomach clenches, and not from hunger. When your father wants to speak with you, it's rarely good news. It usually means there's been a development in your marriage negotiations because that's what you are to your family, a valuable political asset, a tool to forge alliances, secure peace treaties, or gain lands through marriage. Your personal feelings on the matter completely irrelevant. Do you know what it's about? You whisper back, even though ladies aren't supposed to gossip at the table. Alice shakes her head. No, my lady, but there was a messenger from France last night. France. That could mean anything. An alliance with France would be prestigious, but it would mean leaving England, leaving everything and everyone you know to go live in a foreign court where you don't speak the language, don't know the customs, and will be viewed with suspicion as a foreigner. The food in your mouth suddenly tastes like ashes. You're 13 years old, just 13. In your time, you'd be in middle school, worried about homework and friends, and maybe your first crush. Here, you're already of marriageable age. Girls can be betrothed as infants, married at 12, the minimum age set by the church, and expected to start bearing children as soon as possible after that. Speaking of bearing children, that's your main purpose as a princess. Your education, limited as it is compared to your brothers, has been geared toward making you a good wife and mother. You've been taught to manage a household, basic medicinal skills, needlework, maybe some music, if your family values those accomplishments. Reading, possibly, though not all noble women were literate. Writing less commonly. Languages if you're expected to make a foreign match. You've also been taught since you were old enough to understand that your body doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your family until marriage, then to your husband after. Its purpose is to produce heirs, preferably male ones, and childbirth in the medieval period. It's basically a death sentence for many women. No modern medicine, no understanding of germs or infection, no pain relief beyond herbs and prayer. Women died in childbirth all the time from bleeding, infection, exhaustion. Even queens and princesses with the best care available died regularly this way. And if you survived one birth, you were expected to go through it again and again, as many times as it took to produce enough sons to secure the lineage. The meal ends, and your father motions for you to follow him to his private chamber. This is it. Whatever news came from France, you're about to hear it. And whatever it is, you have no say in the matter. Your life is not your own. As you walk behind your father through the corridors, you pass a window that looks out over the castle grounds. For just a moment, you catch a glimpse of two young squires practicing swordplay in the yard below. They're laughing, free in a way you'll never be. They get to learn fighting, strategy, horsemanship, all things forbidden to you because you're female. Their futures will be determined largely by their own abilities and choices. Yours was determined the moment you were born, female and royal. The heavy wooden door to your father's chamber cacks open and you're ushered inside. Unlike your sparse sleeping chamber, this room shows the true wealth of your family. Tapestries line the walls, keeping out drafts while displaying hunting scenes and family crests. A fire roars in the hearth, making this the warmest room in the castle. Your father has a desk, an actual piece of furniture dedicated just to writing and business, covered with parchments, quills, and his personal seal. "Daughter," he says, "not bothering with your name." Me fathers, especially royal ones, weren't exactly the warm, fuzzy type. The King of France has proposed a match between you and his second son, Philip. And there it is, your future decided. You don't know this Philip. You've never met him. You don't know if he's kind or cruel, handsome or ugly, smart or stupid. None of that matters. What matters is that France is powerful, and this alliance would benefit your family politically. The terms are favorable, your father continues, as if discussing the sale of a horse rather than your entire life. Your dowie will include the northern territories, and in return, we will receive trade rights through French ports. You're 13. You've never left England. You don't speak French. And now you're expected to leave everything behind. Go to a foreign country, marry a stranger, sleep with him, bear his children, and run his household, all while being watched and judged by a court that sees you as an outsider. When? It's all you can manage to ask. When will your life as you know it end? The betrothal will be announced at Michael's. The wedding will take place next spring. After you turn 14, your father finally looks at you directly. This is a good match, better than I hoped for. You will bring honor to our family. Translation: be grateful. Some girls get sold off to men 3 times their age. Some get sent to foreign courts, even more distant and strange. Some get married to secure peace with enemies who hate them from the moment they arrive. By medieval royal standards, this is actually a decent arrangement. Yes, father, you say, because there's nothing else to say. No point in crying or begging. It won't change anything. This is your duty. This is what you were born for. As you leave your father's chamber, you realize that your life, as you've known it, already restricted and controlled, now has an expiration date. You have less than a year left in your home with the people you know speaking the language you understand. After that, you belong to France, to Philippe, to a life that's being thrust upon you without your consent. Alice is waiting outside the door. One look at your face tells her everything. France, she asks quietly. You nod. The second son, a small ray of hope in her voice. You nod again. Well, she says, trying to find something positive. At least he won't be king. Less pressure on you. Small comfort. Second sons still expect heirs, still have political responsibilities, still have complete control over their wives. But Alice is right about one thing. Not. Being queen consort does mean slightly less scrutiny, slightly lower stakes. Come, Alice says, guiding you back toward your chambers. It's time for your lessons. And so, your day continues. You don't get to fall apart. don't get to process this life-changing news. There's no therapist to talk to, no understanding parent to comfort you. There's just the relentless schedule of a medieval princess's day. Prayers, meals, lessons, more prayers, more meals, maybe some supervised recreation if you're lucky, and then bed the same tomorrow and the next day until you're shipped off to France to begin your real purpose, making babies and securing alliances. This is the reality of being a medieval princess. Not fairy tales, not romance, not freedom, just duty, restriction, and the constant looming knowledge that your body isn't your own. And this is just the morning of your day. The rest, even more controlled, even more focused on preparing you for the one thing that matters, being valuable marriage material. As you follow Alice back to your cold chamber, where you'll spend the next few hours practicing needlework or learning French, suddenly very important, you catch yourself wondering what it would be like to be one of those squires instead, to hold a sword instead of a needle, to have choices instead of obligations. But those thoughts are dangerous. Better to accept your fate. Better to be the good, obedient daughter and future wife. Because in medieval Europe, for a princess, that's the only way to survive. And survival, not happiness, is the best you can hope for. Alice leads you back to your chamber, where several other ladies are waiting. They're all from noble families sent to serve you and learn the ways of court alongside you. They're not exactly friends. True friendship isn't really a concept that exists in the same way for medieval nobility. These girls are both your servants and your competition, watching your every move and reporting back to their families about the princess they serve. Lady Catherine will be here shortly for your French lessons, Alice says, helping you change into a simpler gown, more suitable for sitting and studying. Your father says you'll need extra practice now. Of course he does. The clock is ticking on your transformation from English princess to French bride. Learning the language isn't just about communication, it's about survival. The chamber feels slightly warmer now that the morning fire has been burning for a while. Your ladies busy themselves around the room preparing your study materials. One of them, Margaret, who's about your age, looks at you with sympathy in her eyes. She knows what it means to be married off to a foreign court. Her sister was sent to Scotland last year and hasn't been heard from since. I hear the French court is very grand, Margaret offers, trying to be helpful, much more refined than ours. What she doesn't say, but you both know, is that the French will find every flaw in your manners, your speech, your appearance. You'll be judged mercilessly as the foreign bride, the outsider. No matter how well you prepare, it won't be enough. Lady Catherine arrives and your heart sinks. She's a stern, thin-lipped woman who spent time in the French court in her youth and never lets anyone forget it. She carries a small wooden paddle that she uses to rap your knuckles when you mispronounce a word. By the end of most lessons, your fingers are red and swollen. Bonjour, Mademoiselle, she says sharply, not bothering with pleasantries in English. You stare at her blankly. You've been learning French for years. All noble children do, since it's the language of diplomacy. But you're nowhere near fluent, and now, suddenly, your entire future depends on how quickly you can master it. She said we have much to do today, Margaret whispers, earning herself a glare from Lady Catherine France. Lady Catherine snaps, pointing at you. You try, God. You try. Whack the paddle comes down on your knuckles. Pain shoots up your arm, but you don't cry out. Princesses don't show pain again. Lady Catherine demands La Princesse Dungle. And so it goes for 2 excruciating hours. Your tongue twists around and unfamiliar sounds. Your throat tightens with the effort of producing nasal vowels that don't exist in English. Your knuckles throb. By the end, you can barely make a fist. What they don't tell you in fairy tales is that medieval education, especially for girls, was often brutal. There was no concept of positive reinforcement, no gold stars for effort. There was only success or failure, and failure meant punishment. Better, Lady Catherine finally says, though her face shows no satisfaction. Tomorrow we will work on court etiquette. The French have different customs. You must not embarrass your family. as if you needed the reminder, as if the weight of your entire kingdom's diplomatic relations doesn't already rest on your adolescent shoulders. Lady Catherine leaves, and you flex your fingers, wincing. One of your ladies rushes forward with a small pot of salve made from herbs grown in the castle garden. This too is part of your education, learning which plants heal, which soothe, which poison. Medieval medical knowledge was primitive by our standards, but it was comprehensive in its own way, passed down from woman to woman across generations. Time for your needlework, my lady, Alice announces as another lady brings forward your embroidery frame. This, at least, is something you're good at. All noble girls learn needlework from the time they can hold a needle. It's not just decorative, it's practical. In a world before mass production, everything must be made by hand. Queens and peasants alike spend hours every day with needle and thread, making and mending clothing, linens, tapestries. Your current project is a complex religious scene showing the Annunciation, the angel Gabriel telling Mary she'll bear the Son of God. The symbolism isn't lost on you. Like Mary, you have no choice but to accept the fate handed to you by men who claim to speak with authority. The work is detailed and demanding. You're using silk threads imported at great expense from the East, dyed in vibrant colors that cost more than what a peasant family might earn in a year. The gold thread you're using for the angel's halo is actual gold pounded thin and wrapped around a silk core. Your family's wealth literally woven into fabric. Smaller stitches, Alice reminds you, inspecting your work. A French lady would use stitches so small they can hardly be seen. You sigh and pull out the last row, starting again. Your back aches from hunching over the frame. Your eyes strain in the dim light coming through the narrow window. Even on bright days, medieval castles are dark inside. Candles and oil lamps are expensive, so you work mostly by daylight, which means your productive hours are limited, especially in winter. Tell me about the French court. You say to Alice as you work, "What should I expect?" Alice purses her lips. It's more formal than here, more political. Everyone watching everyone else, looking for advantages, for weaknesses. Sounds awful, you mutter, pricking your finger for the third time. A drop of blood stains the white linen. You'll have to work it into the pattern somehow. It's survival. Alice corrects you. Court life is a battlefield without swords. Words are the weapons. Alliances are the armor, and unlike men, women can't settle disputes with a duel. We must be cleverer, more patient. This too is part of your education, learning the unwritten rules of court life. How to read people's intentions behind their formal words. How to navigate the treacherous waters of noble politics, where a single misstep could mean disaster, not just for you, but for your entire family. Will you come with me? You ask suddenly to France. Alice's face softens. If your father permits it, some of us will accompany you, though many of your ladies in France will be French, chosen by your husband's family to help you adjust, to spy on you. She means to report your every word and deed back to your new family, to make sure your loyalties shift appropriately from England to France. The morning passes in silence after that, broken only by the soft sounds of needles through fabric and the occasional instruction from Alice. Your thoughts drift to what awaits you in France. Will your husband be kind? Will you be allowed to bring your favorite books? Will anyone there care about what you want, what you think, what you feel? You know the answer. No one cares now. Why would that change in France? Midday approaches, and it's time to change clothes again for the meal. This time, you're dressed more formally, as there are visitors to the castle, minor nobles from nearby estates coming to pay respects to your father, and incidentally, to get a look at you, the princess who's made such an advantageous match. You're a curiosity now, a success story in the medieval marriage market. Your value has just increased significantly. The great hall is noisy and crowded when you enter. Trestle tables have been set up in rows with your family's high table on a raised platform at the front. The stone floor is covered with fresh rushes mixed with herbs that release their scent when crushed underfoot, helping to mask the smells of so many people in one space. You take your place at the high table, careful to observe all the proper formalities, back straight, eyes modestly lowered, hands folded, silent and less spoken to, the perfect medieval lady giving no one any reason to criticize. The meal is more elaborate than breakfast. Roasted meats, fish, bread, cheese, seasonal vegetables prepared with expensive spices, Wine flows freely. You eat little. Your stomach's still tight with anxiety about your future. Besides, it's not ladylike to show too much appetite. Medieval beauty standards for noble women prize daintiness, paleness, and delicacy. The one ethereal look that comes from never getting enough sun or food was considered attractive. The plump, rosy-cheeked ideal came much later. My daughter, your father calls down the table, making you jump. Lady Catherine tells me your French still needs work. You feel dozens of eyes turn to you. Heat rises in your cheeks. Yes, father, I'm trying. Try harder, he says bluntly. I won't have the French court laughing at English education. You nod, eyes lowered again, humiliation burning through you. Public criticism is just another tool in the medieval parenting arsenal. Shame as motivation, fear as incentive. Perhaps the princess would benefit from a French lady-in-waiting, suggests one of the visiting nobles, someone who could speak with her throughout the day. Your father considers this, then nods. A practical suggestion. I'll arrange it. And just like that, another decision about your life is made without your input. Another stranger will be thrust into your intimate daily routine. Another person to judge you, to find you wanting. After the meal, you're allowed a brief period of recreation in the castle garden. It's one of the few times in your day when you're permitted outdoors, and even then, you're closely supervised. Medieval noble girls don't run, don't shout, don't climb trees, or play rough games like boys do. Your recreation consists of sedate walks along garden paths, perhaps some gentle ball games or dancing practice. The garden itself is nothing like our modern idea of ornamental gardens. It's primarily functional herbs for cooking and medicine, vegetables, fruit trees. Beauty is secondary to utility in medieval life. Tell me about Prince Philip, you say to Alice as you walk. What do you know of him? Alice hesitates. He's 17, she finally says. 4 years your senior. They say he's interested in scholarly pursuits. That could mean anything from a genuine intellectual to a weak boy unfit for military training. In a world where physical prowess is prized above all for men, being scholarly isn't necessarily a compliment. They say he's kind to his servants. Alice adds, as if sensing your disappointment. That's rare enough to be remarked upon. It's something, at least. Kindness isn't a quality much valued in medieval nobility, especially in men. Power, strength, cunning. These are the traits that matter. If Philip is known for kindness, perhaps your life with him won't be completely miserable. Will I at least get to meet him before the wedding? You ask. Alice shakes her head. Unlikely. The marriage negotiations will be conducted by proxies. You'll probably meet him for the first time at the ceremony. Medieval royal marriages weren't about compatibility or love. They were business arrangements, political alliances sealed with vows and consummated with bodies. The idea that you should meet your spouse beforehand, let alone have anything in common with them, would have seemed absurd to medieval nobility. Your afternoon lessons begin after your brief garden respite. These focus on household management, the skills you'll need as the lady of a grand estate, because that's what a princess becomes after marriage. The manager of her husband's household, responsible for everything from provisioning the kitchens to overseeing the servants to maintaining the accounts. Brother Thomas, a monk from the nearby abbey who serves as the castle's clerk and accountant, arrives with his wax tablets and stylus. Today's lesson is on household expenditures, how to track what's spent, what's saved, what's wasted. A well-run household reflects God's order. Brother Thomas intones. His voice is dry as the parchment he carries. Wastefulness is a sin. Carelessness is a sin. Ignorance of your resources is a sin. Everything is a sin in medieval Christianity. The fear of hell permeates every aspect of life, every decision, every thought. It's the ultimate control mechanism in a world already rigidly controlled by social hierarchies. Brother Thomas sets a tablet before you, covered in neat rows of Roman numerals. Calculate the cost of provisioning the kitchen for 1 month based on these figures, he instructs. It's tedious, painstaking work. Arabic numerals exist, but aren't widely used yet in Europe. Calculations that would take us seconds with modern math take you long, frustrating minutes. There are no shortcuts, no calculators, not even the simple convenience of positional notation that makes our base 10 system so efficient. Your head aches with the effort of converting measures and values. How many shillings to the pound? How many pence to the shilling? How many bushels of wheat to feed? How many people for how many days? The variables seem endless. You must know these things, Brother Thomas says sharply. When you make an error, a lady who cannot manage her household is at the mercy of dishonest stewards and thieving servants. He's right, of course. In the medieval world, numeracy is as important as literacy for a noble lady. You'll be responsible for managing vast estates, overseeing hundreds of servants and workers. If you can't keep track of resources, can't budget properly, can't detect when you're being cheated, your household will fall into disarray. And that reflects poorly not just on you, but on your husband. After mathematics comes music, another essential skill for a medieval lady. Not because anyone cares about your personal fulfillment or creative expression, but because accomplishments like music making increase your value as a diplomatic asset. A princess who can entertain at court is more useful than one who can't. Sister Agnes from the convent arrives with a small harp. Unlike the massive concert harps we think of today, medieval harps were portable instruments that could be played while seated in a lady's chamber. Your fingering has improved, Sister Agnes says as you pluck carefully at the strings, producing a simple melody, but your timing still falters in the middle section. Music in medieval Europe was primarily religious hymns, psalms, simple devotional pieces. Secular music existed too, of course, but it wasn't considered entirely proper for young noble ladies to sing the popular love songs of troubadours. Those came later when courtly love became fashionable. Your music lesson is cut short when your mother's messenger arrives. The queen requests your presence, the woman says with a curtsy. Your mother, the queen? Even in your thoughts, you don't think of her informally. Medieval parent-child relationships, especially in royal families, weren't characterized by casual warmth. Respect, duty, and proper distance were the norm. You follow the messenger through the winding corridors to your mother's chambers, larger and more luxurious than your own, befitting her status. Inside, you find her surrounded by her ladies, all working on an enormous tapestry stretched on a frame that takes up half the room. Daughter, she acknowledges you with a nod. Come see what we're making for your wedding. The tapestry shows a symbolic joining of your family's crest with that of the French royal family. The workmanship is exquisite. Your mother is known throughout the kingdom for her skill with a needle. This tapestry will travel with you to France, a visual reminder of the political alliance your body is sealing. It's beautiful, you say, because it is, despite what it represents. Sit, your mother commands, indicating a stool near her. Work on this section. The French court will judge your needlework harshly. You must not shame us. You take your place and begin stitching, adding tiny, precise stitches to the border pattern. Your mother watches critically, occasionally correcting your technique. This, too, is education, learning from the woman who's lived the life you're about to begin. a life of duty, obligation, and carefully concealed emotion. I've heard about the French match, your mother says after a while, her voice low enough that only you can hear. It's better than I hoped for. Prince Philip has a reputation for gentleness coming from your mother. This is practically gushing approval. You glance at her, surprised by this almost expression of concern for your welfare. Will it hurt? You ask, your voice barely audible. You both know what you're asking about. The wedding night, the consummation that will make the political alliance real and binding. Your mother's face remains impassive, her eyes on her needlework. Yes, she says simply, but it passes, and then it becomes tolerable in time. Tolerable, not pleasurable, not joyful, just tolerable. That's the best a medieval queen can offer her daughter by way of marital advice. Remember your duty, she continues, still not looking at you. Provide heirs, manage his household, bring honor to both families. The rest is unimportant. The rest being your happiness, your desires, your personhood, all unimportant in the grand scheme of medieval political marriage. Yes, mother, you say, because there's nothing else to say. You work in silence after that, adding stitches to a tapestry that symbolizes your fate. The irony isn't lost on you. With every stitch, you're literally helping to create the artifact of your own subjugation. But that's the nature of being a medieval princess. You're both the commodity being traded and the craftsperson preparing yourself for market. As the afternoon wears on, you're summoned for yet another lesson. This one in religious instruction with Father Ambrose, the castle's chaplain. Religion wasn't just a Sunday activity in medieval Europe. It was woven into every moment of every day, especially for women who were considered morally weaker than men, and thus in need of constant spiritual guidance. Father Ambrose is ancient with rheumy eyes and gnarled hands that tremble slightly as he opens his prayer book. He's been instructing you since you were